Here we go. Hey, Dell Jackson here. LL Hoops Press Break. Our idea this year was to talk about games that we covered, games in the LL, and this was our first full weekend of games. So I have Andy with us tonight. Andy covered 2 games live. I got Coach Chris George with us tonight. He played 2 games this weekend, and we're gonna do a little chit chat about LL Hoops this weekend. See what happens. I do want to say that the press break is sponsored by Spooky Nook, and everybody knows about Spooky Nook. We got a link on, and we really, really appreciate their support in this. So they do a lot of stuff, really good stuff for basketball. So if anybody, any leagues and individual stuff, we got the link up there. You can contact Coach. All right, we're going to start with Coach Chris George. Chris George coming off 2 big wins. Coach, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. Yourselves, guys?
I'm doing great. I don't know about Andy.
I'm hanging in there.
You awake down there?
I did 2 games this weekend, so I'm good.
All right. Coach George did 2 games. Let's start with your Friday night, Coach. Give us a little brief about the game. It was an LL game, and then we'll go into Saturday's game.
Yeah, back-to-back, obviously, here. And we weren't the only team. A lot of teams went Friday, Saturday. But obviously, we had plenty of prep time here over the last, 3-4 weeks to take a look at these guys. Luckily for us, Donegal had, other than their 2 shooters, had almost all their guys back. They did a couple new things offensively. Pine Grove had all their guys back, so it wasn't too difficult of a scout for us. But we played well. We have everybody back as well. I thought we controlled both games, which, for us and for me, these last couple of years, obviously we had the team in 18 that went to leagues and won some district games. And, we lost to Catholic in the play-in game to go to state. So, since then, these last couple of years have been rebuilding for us with a lot of younger guys. And these games have been, if you haven't followed us, we haven't won a ton of those games, but we've done well. We've been competitive. We've had a ton of overtime and buzzer beater shots. We've been in games. And, for the first time now in a couple of years, we had a couple games this weekend where we kind of, Pine Grove was 10 points all night. Donegal was a little ugly at first and sloppy. And then eventually I think we got it to 15 at half and 20, 25 in the fourth. It was a little weird coaching with that kind of a lead for once. It had been a couple of years. What's funny is I don't want to rant too much, but when I was coaching back at Pine Grove, I had some pretty good teams and won a couple titles, districts, a league. And I would say, I think I was there for 5 years. I did not one time coach an overtime game. And for all the playoff games we had, I would tell people all the time, man, I'm jealous. You guys who get to coach these overtime games, these buzzer beater endings. I kind of want some of that. Well, after these last couple of years of all these tight games, and it's been fun. It's especially if, these last couple of years when you're rebuilding, there's always that risk of, too many nights getting handled and stuff. And I don't think that's happened very often to our guys, which has been good. I think it's helped us to keep our heads up and grow. But definitely as a coach, it's just a different mindset. You're up by 14, 15, 16 in both games. And I'm just sort of I'm not really sure what to do with myself again. I'm coaching I'm down 3 or up 4 and every possession is, do or die. And maybe that's okay. But, it's different. And that's the nice thing, to have a pretty solid team and a lot of upperclassmen. I can probably step back a little bit this year, and let them be more coaches on the floor and be leaders and let them run the game and probably not stress out about every single possession as much.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Coach, because I know Andy's really high on your guards. So you said you had some leads and you're more comfortable. Did your guards control the games this weekend, or is it just kind of an overall team balance?
Well, if you know our team, we're guard heavy. When a lot of times after we make our first sub, we're playing 4 guards for the most part. The kids playing the 3 and 4 for us are really, and no knock on our small guys, but at most schools, those kids would be point guards or shooting guards. But we've got a couple guards who are lucky if we're 5'6". So, but we need them and they're awesome. So that's why they're in there. And, our other couple guards are great too. So a lot of times it's, we're playing with 3 or 4 point guards out there. So yeah, controlling the game, controlling the tempo is obviously, it's obviously a big part of what we do. It's been like that the last few years, not having, a real inside presence. But we also have a bunch of scrappy guys like Clemmer and Herman and Martino who don't get, they don't get a lot of the publicity, but in what we do offensively, they're setting a million screens. They're playing defense. They're guarding guys who are way bigger than them all the time. Like the last couple of years with Hamilton and Kimball at Elko and, all these guys come Waga at Catholic.
Let me ask you this. I got two quick questions, just kind of coaching questions. How did your kids, you played Lebanon early in December, but how are your kids adapting to playing with masks? Has it been an issue, or is it just like everybody's doing it and it's not a big deal anymore?
I think at this point, it's kind of not a big deal. What's funny, we actually have a kid who's has an exception. A lot of teams have one for medical exceptions, not many. But he kind of doesn't use it, even though he kind of should. He just doesn't want to be different. Like, hey, everyone's wearing them. It's kind of what we're doing. And I get it. Like they're still kids at the end of the day. They're teenagers. Peer pressure matters. But I haven't seen, I don't know, like you still see kids tugging on him in the games a little bit. There's still times where, I'll see a kid like grabbing his mask when he should be already moving on defense and, things like that. So that'll, unfortunately, that's just the coach where, we don't have any sympathy for him when it comes to that. Like, hey, too bad you don't get to breathe. Right. You need to be in proper help.
Right.
But I think they're getting used to it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
The second question I have, and then I'll flip over to Andy, see if he has any questions for you, is you spoke about coaching. So I'm assuming, like I'm an old school guy, so I'm assuming that nobody can go and scout in person. So are you guys exchanging the huddle tapes? How are you going about scouting this year?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of emails from coaches in other leagues because obviously we've played Pine Grove, who's in another league. And obviously some of our league teams play out of the league as well. So I'm probably getting a little bit more emails there because in the past, maybe some of those teams would have actually scouted. Our league has always done, I don't know if you're aware, but we've had a really good huddle exchange policy since I've been here, maybe 5 or 6 years. Tommy Smith and a couple other coaches sort of take the lead in that, which is great. And they have the right mindset. When I was an assistant at Elko 15, 20 years ago, the junior high guys were driving all over the place on Friday nights or Tuesday nights, whatever it was. And, having to spend a lot of gas and time. And those guys have families and kids. And so this is really a way to make it easier on our coaches and our staffs. You might as well just share it. We know we're going to get the film. You're going to drive. You're going to do it. I know that, like I said, I came from the Schuylkill League in Pine Grove. I don't think they're still doing that up there. I know when I first came here, I was starting to tell my buddies up there, they're like, you guys exchange film? No way. This is old school up here. You want to get a game, you go get a game, And, there is part of me that still misses that misses the getting in your car after practice and trying to fly over somewhere else. But, nowadays with technology and all, and then obviously with COVID, that's just not going to happen this year. So it's kind of a good excuse there to make that happen.
Okay. I know we're having a heck of a time getting into gyms just to cover.
Yeah.
Andy got into a couple this week, and we're going to try to get into a couple more this week. So, hey, Andy, you got any questions for the coach? I mean, the coach might be leaving us. He might be staying. That's kind of up to him here.
I do. I have a couple for him. I got to put him on the hot seat a bit. The first thing I have is there's not a lot of teams in the state that are in your position in the sense that you've played 3. Right. Some teams don't even have 3 practices in. Maybe they do, or 3 or 4 or something like that. So they're a ways from even playing.
Sure.
Where are you at in terms of knowing your personnel and in the fact that one of the games you played, you had to get sliced for like 4 weeks because of the shutdown, and then you restarted again? Like, do you think that you're 3 games into a season, or where is that at with that super long layoff and everything? I mean, I'm just curious because you're in rarefied air within the state playing 3 games already.
Well, hey, if they cancel the season right now, that's great. Let's take us right there. We'll be right at the top, put us right in the playoffs. You got to have 3 games to qualify. How's that sound?
There you go.
Yeah, no, but that's a good question. I actually said, I was talking to the guys after the game last night, and they're frustrated at some things that I think it's a natural feeling that, hey, we're halfway into January and we're still like, we're just doing some things that are sloppy that you're kind of feeling like our beginning of the season stuff. And I kind of had to remind them that, guys, we're 3 games in. I know it feels like we are, because we've been kind of together so long with our practices starting. We started right on time. Of course, we had the break, but it's still, it still feels like a long time. And for us to be having some of the mistakes or breakdowns that we're having at this time of the season, or kids just not having the success that they want to have right now, I've had to tell them, like, just try to keep it in perspective. We are only 3 games in. The games are coming. I was looking at my calendar today. I think it's 12 games in 24, 25 days, something crazy like that. And when I take off the 2 this week, I think it's 10 in 17 days after this week. We do a 10-game stretch in 17 days. So, and I told them, I said, once we go through that, you'll have a pretty good feeling of where you are. Like we will be halfway through a season, and hopefully we'll be a little sharper and stuff. So, I kind of feel like it's just, it's one of those things where the seasons messes with you a little bit, if you know what I mean, or the time of day. Like, you just think you should be, it's January. You're watching college basketball, football playoffs are on. You just should have a vibe that, man, we should really be kind of flowing right now. And we're a little disjointed with some things.
Yeah, there was a couple guys, well, more than a few I talked to who played their first games on Friday and even on the Saturday. And they basically said, listen, although this counted, this was just a really, really glorified scrimmage, essentially, because we had no idea what we were doing. We just had 4 days of practice and voila, here we are.
Right.
So, yeah, and you're obviously 3 games in, so just curious about that. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, obviously, it's no secret, I love your 2 guards. And I saw in the Lebanon game, I forget who it was. I think it was Peyton. It was Peyton or Owen who had like 33.
Right.
And for those who have not seen you play, as you just said, they are tiny, like tiny dudes. They're not going to get any bigger anytime soon, I don't think. So
right.
Knowing that they are the guys on the scouting report, how are they still getting loose for like 33 a game? Like, are you running stuff for them? Are they getting open? Because again, they're tiny. They can't, go inside and mix it up down low, because that probably wouldn't turn out too well. So like, they will always be guards and have to do guard set type stuff. So how in the world are they exploding for all these points when clearly everyone should know about them?
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to say it's all coaching. I mean, that's what it is, Andy.
That's what it is. I know it.
Stuff up in the mud. No, honestly, I said it before. You got to give a lot of credit to their teammates. Now, Owen and Peyton aren't just shooters. They do a lot with the ball. Owen, I think only had maybe 7 or 8 against Lebanon. He didn't hit any threes. I think all of his points though were layups. So Owen, these kids get to the rim for as tiny as they are. They're real good with stop and start. Their handles are, since day one, it's why they played right away. Both of them can go with their right or left, fantastic. So they're hard to, I say that to kids all the time. And, when I talk to kids that are youth level or high or junior high, I say, listen, you don't have to be the greatest athlete in the world. If you can dribble with both hands in high school, you can be a pretty solid high school basketball player for the most part. Obviously there's some other things that go into play, but they both can go both ways. They can both shoot clearly. So now, that makes it easier in a way. Like, you guys know hoops. If someone's up in your shorts because they're worried about your shot, it's a little easier to get by them now and get into the lane. And now all of a sudden they're getting in the lane. Someone's got to help. And again, we have a couple other guys in Shirk who I think had 14. You saw this weekend, I don't think Peyton had huge games. Peyton had the 33 against Lebanon, but it was Shirk and Grimes who had big nights for us. And part of that is they're awesome slashers, good body guards, getting to the rim. Well, when they collapse, they're hitting Peyton and Owen for shots. But when they're not and they're staying home, those guys are getting some easier shots as well. So, we talked after the Lebanon game. It wasn't that the other guys didn't play well. Maybe we just didn't hit some shots or whatever. But we're a little worried. Like, we need these other guys to put some stats up, or else it's not going to look good, going into these games. It's going to seem like, when you take Peyton out of the mix and you can slow them down. So we had, one of the things I liked about this weekend is that Shirk, Grimes, Owen had a nice game last night. Clemmer scoring a little bit more. He's a huge defensive guy for us. Ian Herman hit some points. But those big guys are doing a lot of screening for our guards. Our slashers are driving and kicking to those guys. So it's just a matter of sticking to the plan, and Owen and Peyton have to also be pretty aggressive. They're not going to get, they can't wait till the second quarter or think they're going to get these awesome looks. And I think, Peyton burst onto the scene as a freshman pretty quick. Last year, the shots didn't come so easy and he had to start being a little more aggressive. So they've had to alter their games a little bit to take some quicker shots, shots that, aren't the best shots. But, you got to do it. You watch the NBA right now, Curry is taking a lot of questionable shots for the Warriors. But what else are you going to do? Mm-hmm. When you're the man, they don't have Klay Thompson. They don't have the other guys for them to lean on. So you got to be more aggressive.
The other thing I wanted to ask you is Donegal. It was a pretty nip and tuck game by all accounts. And this is the fun part of this show, is we get our visceral gut reactions from what the weekend was. And they played Susquehannock pretty tough too. So obviously with them going 0 for last year, it seems like they have improved and they're in your section. So obviously, what was last year and what is this year. Masden had a good game. I'm really high on him. I mean, is Donegal clearly making strides? I mean, it certainly seems that way, but as a coach who just faced off against them, 48 hours ago, what's your sense on Donegal and how they fit into Section 4, perhaps?
Well, Kevin does a great job. They're always well coached. They've always given us a really tough game. Again, we got a big on them in the second half, 20-25, but they kept fighting. I told our guys, especially with our history of playing tough games against them, they're not going to quit. They're not going to go away. They're really scrappy. He gets them playing hard. They're always tough on the boards for us. And that's the mark of a well-coached team, that, kids that just are scrappy. Our goal with them was to keep them off the boards, and we did a pretty good job. And that's kind of why we dominated the game. They made a little run at the end on us, but they're super physical. They're super scrappy. They're going to be fine. They're going to be in a lot of games. And with the section, our section is not down this year. I think it's more balanced. Mm-hmm. All the teams lost some really good players, but all the teams have a bunch of really good guys back. So I think that's going to help Donegal to compete in some of those games a little bit better than last year for sure. But I still think, section wise, I think it's going to come down to, Wednesday night's a big night for us, hosting Catholic. Mm-hmm. I happened to see their game against Elko the other night. That was a pretty tight game. And then I think Elko goes to Octorara Wednesday night. So you got two games there, with the four teams in our section. I think all four teams think they have a little bit of hope here section wise, if not to win it, maybe get into league playoffs and all, whatever that looks like. So
that's good. We're looking ahead before we're looking ahead. I like it. Hey, Andy, let's go with your games this week. Tell us what you saw, basically. I mean, I know you have some really good write-ups on our website, but just in general, you covered two games. Give us some brief recaps.
Yeah, fortunate enough, and thank you to the Mannheim Central brass for letting me in on Friday night. I know there was some strings to pull there, so that was much appreciated. I really wanted to see that game. I said before the season, I thought Calico and Central were probably your two top dogs. Then obviously you saw what happened on Friday night by the infamous freshman who had 28 at LS. So we'll see how that plays out too. But no, I mean, the game itself between Calico and Central was really exactly what I thought it would be. It was nip and tuck the whole way. Carter Nunaville is a dude, and I've been trying to hype up his truck tires for a long time. I'm not going to have a hard time doing that this year. He is the real deal. I mean, a bunch of tough step back threes in the first half, and then out of the locker room in the second half, he goes and muscles it up inside. Had a couple flexes too. That's always nice to see. So, I mean, and the impressive part about it was they did it without Augie Gerhardt, who, those who know, that's their 6'8" big who can play like a small, but obviously 6'8". They can throw him down inside and just let him do his thing. So Central missed a lot of shots they normally would hit. Grube was pretty well under wraps. I guess he exploded yesterday. It looked like up at Fleetwood for 20 something. So I think they're back, on the way there. But I asked Coach Sigmund after the game, I was like, how do you really approach a win like this? Because this year is already funky. It's probably going to get funkier. Like in a normal year, oh my God, we just beat Central and we're supposed to be two of the better teams in the section. But I'm like, what does it really mean? Because you don't know how far you're going to get. Like, how important really was this? Because yeah, you can have, whoever they have on the schedule for next week or the weeks after that, like, okay, well, we did this, so that means we probably have some wiggle room here. I mean, you know how it is. I mean, coaches kind of figure out where, what the next week is looking like and where the buffers are that maybe they can, play around with some things. And he was honest. He was like, I don't know. He's like, it's a good win because we beat Central, who obviously is our rival. But yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. We might not be playing 2 weeks from now. We don't know. So really everything just has to be kind of kept in a vacuum. And we just have to see what the days and weeks play out, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, it was a huge win for them. They made it a little more interesting than it needed to late. They couldn't quite finish off trips with 1-1. So I know that kept Seth a little more nervous than he had to be. But no, I mean, it was a great game. And then yesterday, I went over to Hempfield and saw them play Dallastown. That was what was interesting about that was it was clear that Dallastown knew that Ryan Hilton was Hempfield's best player, and he got the primary, like, all the focus on the scouting report, and they didn't let him breathe really for the first couple quarters. And then, although he was pretty well absent for most of the game, I said in the write-up about 28 minutes, they don't win that game without him yesterday. He just absolutely took that over in winning time, getting deflections and then going out on the break and finishing in transition and things like that. So, I mean, Hempfield, I think, is going to be fine. There was a couple things in section 1, which, I mean, I'm sure we'll take a look at it here as the show progresses and what caught our eye in general. But well, I mean, two good games. I mean, Cacalico with the big win. What's interesting, and what was also interesting, I didn't know this. I was talking, obviously, after the game to their staff, and for a truncated season, and we're talking with Coach George here, who's already played 3, they're off for the entire week. Like, they're not playing until next Friday, which is kind of weird. Like, in such a truncated season, you think you're playing on top of each other, but they're off for an entire week now. Mm-hmm. So that was just a weird thing, which I'm sure that's going to balance itself out later. But that was odd too. But no, I mean, the bottom line, great to get into gyms. Again, it's not going to be as easy as it used to be, but it's just, I said in my one tweet on Friday night, it was just cathartic to be in a gym. And, you were talking about masks earlier. Like, for me, with the exception of not having as many people in the gym as normal, it felt normal. Like, I mean, masks weren't falling off or anything like that, or you had to swap in and swap out. Like, it felt pretty normal. It really did. And it felt really normal yesterday because Saturday afternoons are usually dead. Yeah. So that really felt no different either. But no, I mean, it was good to get out, and, hopefully we got a lot more games to cover, hopefully. So
that's good. Hey, Coach George, you got anything to add? I know you got a late night here, and if you want to leave us, that's fine. If you got any insights or something that hit you this weekend, go ahead.
I would just ask Andy, like, you were at the Hempfield and Central. Did they have away fans there?
Dallastown did.
Okay.
Dallastown was they got an allotment of tickets. Central, I don't believe did. But during the game, they said, before the game, they were, hey, we welcome our visitors from Cacalico, but I didn't see any blue sweatshirts or anything like that. So maybe that was just on the pregame script. I don't know. But no, I don't think Central had fans, but Hempfield had theirs, and Dallastown had whatever their allotment was, like 20 or 30 or whatever. So, but then again, small gym, monstrous gym. Yeah. So
I know that, Coach George, I mean, Andy loves covering all the schools and getting into the smaller gyms and stuff. And we're going to have a heck of a time doing that this year. I mean, I'm checking with some people, and just because of the restriction, it's not like, we don't like UL Hoops, but we're not going to take seats away from a parent or something like that. But it is definitely an issue, and it's been an issue with us trying to get some live stream games in too.
Yeah, what's interesting, talking about like what Andy said in terms of the feel of the game, I happened to see Elko Catholic. They had away fans. So it does kind of feel more like a normal game. Obviously, it's a little thin, but when there's cheering on both ends, it does change things a little bit. Obviously, I think it's maybe 50-50, the number of teams that are allowing away fans, because there are some teams that are allowing no fans.
Yes.
at all. So that's a whole nother wrinkle for you guys. You're probably not getting into those gyms, I'm guessing.
We're not
but
getting into a lot of gyms this
Yeah.
year. We're getting into some gyms, but not a lot. I'll tell you that right now.
For our tiny gym, we're not doing away fans. We really wanted to, but it's just not big enough for us to be able to get the right numbers in there. But we probably will be able to get the media in ours, for one space or for two spaces. The problem becomes, if you want to have away fans, then you almost have to do two, and then that's 40 people, and then that's 40 different spots in your gym, and it's tough when you probably saw the setup. I'm guessing it was the same way, Andy, where half the gym's not getting used. You're probably having the teams all by themselves over there, so that cuts right into it right away.
Yeah. And what was interesting at Central, you're right. I mean, you've been in their gym before. You know how it is. Where the teams sit, those bleachers were rolled up, so the guys had the entire side for both of their benches there. They rolled out the other two bleachers on the opposite side, which is where we sat, and then they rolled out the end zone bleachers as well because they had cheerleaders, which was also interesting. Which whatever. But then at Hempfield, it was totally normal. Both sides open. And Dell, this from going to Hempfield, they had a media table set up where they always do there,
Nice.
where you park. So like they were all systems go. It certainly looked like. So,
Nice.
And they had spots too at both places. They had like little red or white circles, like please sit here, please. Like when like on highways when it's like, please stay 2 dots behind the car in front of you type of thing. So, I mean, everyone's doing their part. I mean, the places are just saturated with hand sanitizer and everything like that. The one thing that I like, which they probably won't be able to keep this permanent, but I like the way that the benches are this year. And you're not going to be able to get away with it in terms of space just by how staggered it is and how much space that takes up on the floor. But I think what they should do is they should allow the kids to be as rowdy as they are. Like, I mean, the kids can stand all game and they don't have to get the constant, hey, guys, sit down, please type of thing. That's something I hope they stick with, just because it's an added element, which they were not allowed to do without getting yelled at. So,
right.
Who knows what that leads to, but that might be one of these inventions through COVID that maybe sticks. Hopefully it does. So
Well,
I
it's
don't know.
unfair. You watch the college and the NBA games. You almost have to. Now those places are businesses, so they have to create an atmosphere of like some fun and some excitement because they just don't get it unless you're pumping in the fake sound. Which maybe we can do out here. I don't know, but
We'll see. I think teams are going to get real creative before the end of the year. I'm telling you that the one thing that I'm looking forward to this week, we're starting our live stream. And like I said, I saw a couple games. I was watching some live stream, and it's going to depend where the microphones are, Coach, but we're going to pick up some interesting thoughts from across the gym and from the referees and the coaches and even the players. We're going to pick up some stuff that, when you have 500 people or 1,000 people in the stands, all you hear is a murmur type of thing. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. We'll see how it goes. I mean, everybody has their mask, so there's be no lip reading going on. That's for sure.
that's true. You need almost like a 10-20 second delay this year.
Yeah. I think on our live stream we got a 3, but I don't think I can stop it. We're gonna find out. Hey,
I think we know which schools we'd have to buy that delay.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think we know which ones.
Just like on the NCAA, I know you got the North Carolina guys. They're probably pretty cool, and then you got the Duke coach, and maybe not so much. I don't know.
One other thing I thought was interesting with the whole live stream, I was talking to somebody from another school, and the whole music thing, playing music at halftime and all that stuff before games. Now all of a sudden you're streaming everything. You've got copyright issues. So I hadn't even thought of that. Some schools are like, oh yeah, we have to like figure out a way to mute our halftime because we want to play music, but it's so many things that I don't think anyone had ever thought were going to be happening.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna find out. I know. I told our producer to find something that was not copyrighted for our first intro. So hey, let me do this. I got Coach Shipper who started at CV. He had 2 games this weekend, and he had 2 1-point games. And I watched the one again on live stream. I asked him for some quotes. I'm gonna read him. I might have to put the glasses on to read this, but I did want to get this in because we would like to get him on sometime again. But I just said, hey, coach, give me some quotes. And here, this is from Coach Shipper on the weekend. He had split games. He lost to Lebanon by 1, and he won. I think it was the Eastern, Andy. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So here we go. This is from Coach Shipper. He says, we're very fortunate to open the season and play 2 great teams right off the bat. Both games were decided by 1 point, coming down to a handful of possession. That is fun basketball. All right. Then he said, I told the boys, this is why you play the game. For this level of competition, when you lose these close ones, you learn a lot. You should learn a lot. Friday night after the 1-point Lebanon loss, I said, yes, it hurts, but it'll help in the growth process. We should learn through this. We should learn the importance of good shot selection, ball security, etc. I believe we have seen growth the very next night as we were more patient down the stretch versus Eastern York. We executed our offense and made plays and got out of town with a victory. I love coaching these guys. Our goal is by the end of the season, every team will say Conestoga Valley defends like crazy and they run good offense. If that happens, wins or losses take care of themselves. And it's kind of like what Coach George said. He's, it's a building, as all of us know. The beginning of the season doesn't look like the end, and you just try to get better as the season goes on, and hopefully, that accumulates some W's as coaches and players. And the one thing looking from afar, I can say is half of the team's going to lose on any given night. You got good players, you got good coaches. It is what it is. So I'm going to kick it back to Andy. And Andy, you kind of touched on this about some surprises. Again, I wasn't in the gyms, but the one score that just knocked me off was the Township and Cedar Crest game.
Yeah, I agree. That caught my eye. I don't know what to make of that, really. Crest, we know Crest lost their 2 most important pieces. I don't know. I knew Township would be pretty good, but I think I said in my one tweet thing, I was like, maybe Section 1 isn't as down as I thought. If someone's going to lay a 40-point whooping on somebody like Crest, and Township would be the one to do it. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. That totally caught me by surprise. Crest only scored 6 points in the second half. That's unbelievable. So yeah, that caught my eye for sure. Hempfield's 2-0. They beat McCaskey, which obviously, if you read John's story from before, that's a unique situation. They had nowhere to shoot at all. So, obviously I'm sure they're a little bit rusty actually just getting shots up, period. Penn Manor won on Saturday night. They played Solanco. But yeah, far and away, you're right. The 61-21, I never saw that coming. So we'll see what they do this week. I don't know who they have off the top of my head. It's probably McCaskey, I would think.
Hempfield. Yeah. I put it up today. Hempfield's playing Penn Manor Monday, and Hempfield's got Crest on Thursday. So who else are we looking at, Andy?
Whoever Township plays this week.
Okay, Township's got McCaskey on Monday.
Okay.
And I think that's all I got them down for here. Just one game this week for those guys. They might play Saturday. I put the stuff up today. I have the LL schedule in front of me, so we'll go from there. Hey, Coach George, again, you're hanging with us, so you must like what's going on. Is there anything that caught your eye? I know the coaches watch these games and what's going on in other sections, and Section 5 hasn't started, so we can't talk about Section 5 tonight. But did anything catch your eyes this weekend, and any surprises or teams that you thought would be good and they're probably showing, at least in the beginning, that they're off to a good start?
Yeah, I'll just quickly mention, the Crest thing with the 40-point loss. People have to remember, and Andy probably knows this, they've got some young guns coming. They some freshmen there that are real strong. They'll be okay. Tommy and his staff do a really nice job. I think Township is a little underrated this year, more athletic than what people think. So probably not a great matchup for Crest right out of the gate, playing some of their young guys and new guys in new roles, but I think they'll be okay. The CV thing, I was happy to see for Coach Shipper. And I'm not really surprised. You know, I saw them at the Nook and they were always there with us and battling. We had some good battles. And I actually saw their scrimmage against Elko, where they did very well against Elko. So I was a little surprised by the score, but at the same time, like I had seen them do good stuff all fall. So happy for them that they're playing like that, you know, giving Lebanon a really great game. And then, you know, anybody else that I've seen, you know, I thought Catholic looked like Catholic in the Elko game that I saw. They don't, yeah,
that's alarming.
Yeah, they don't have the size like they normally do, but the guards are strong. Atkinson looks solid. Elko surprised me a little bit. Not surprised me in the sense that they hung around. I mean, you know, well coached, and you know, when you got arguably the best player in the league in Bohannon, but they're huge. Like, just to see them on film, you know, they got the new kid, the new center transfer, and they got a bunch of guys. They're playing some dudes. They are big and strong. They've altered the way they play as well. They're not driving, kick, pumping threes anymore. It's a totally different game. So they're going to be a really interesting team this year with their size. So it's kind of what I saw. I mean, obviously you can see Lebanon's off to a good start. They have a lot of guys back. So
it's again, I watched a couple games. I was way out of town, but I watched a couple games on live stream, and it looks like the beginning of the year. You know, I mean, there were some turnovers, there was some not smooth stuff, there was some presses, there was, you know, some fouling that was going on, and teams get better. We've had that break, and Andy said it, and I know I can speak for Penn Manor. They practiced for four or 5 days. That's it. You know, I mean, they might have gotten started way back when, and there's no cohesiveness, and everybody else is in the same boat. So that'll be interesting.
Real quick on that there, Dell, the Pine Grove coach, they had everybody back and up in their way. I think they're one of the favorite teams. Quick talking to their coach after the game, he was pretty bummed out about the shutdown because he felt like he had his team really
ready.
Yeah, he had a couple kids that were borderline, a little out of shape coming into camp. And by the time we were ready to get started, he thought that they were really like primed and ready to go. And he didn't feel like the break was good for them.
It hurt him. Yeah,
it hurt him over Christmas, and the 4 days wasn't enough. So it's interesting to see how that played out.
Yeah. And the weird thing, and not the weird thing, but I know coaches get wild on snow delays, and the superintendent says you can't get into the gym, but this is just something that everybody has to deal with. And you know, Andy and I'm sure Coach is just hoping we can get all the games in, and you know, everything doesn't shut down. It will be interesting when a high school has to shut down during COVID issues, and the rescheduling of games, or whether they're allowed to play those games. I don't know how that's going to go with administration. I haven't heard. So hopefully that's you know, hopefully we won't have that issue. Let's switch gears, Andy. I know I was following on the Twitter, and then people were talking about McCracken left and right. Joey McCracken from Warwick has decided not to play basketball, and you had some inside information that you shared with us a little bit earlier. So if you can share what you're allowed to share, let's have at it.
Yeah, he obviously did not play yesterday, and obviously everyone wanted to know why. He was up on a football visit at IUP because he feels that football is it's going to be his career path of choice, if you will, in terms of sports. So he's going to solely focus on that, which, I mean, you can't really blame him. I mean, he was an all-state quarterback for 2 years in a row. So that ain't too bad. And then obviously the elephant in the room is we didn't know if he would play football this year because he messed up his knee late in the season playing basketball last year. So you can understand the rationale there. But I think what's interesting, and I don't know how much, I mean, I'm driving the Warwick hype train. I get that. But I don't think it's really a tremendous setback for them. And that's not a knock on Joey at all. He's a very good player. And yes, they would like to use his services. But I think what's going to come out of this is you're going to see that Kai Sapala, in my opinion, is the best player in the league. And that's just immediately going to shine through. We saw the dunk he had yesterday. That's just going to be one of a million this year, probably. And then the other thing is too, I think Tate Landis is going to prove himself to be the best scoring point guard and table setter in the league as well. So yeah, you take Joey out of the mix, but I just said you have the best probably player and maybe the best point guard in the league. So they're not really going to take a drastic step back, I don't think. I mean, they're going to probably have to figure out, okay, who fits where now. But the good news is they only played one game. So they have the whole season to figure this out on the fly. And it was probably a blessing in disguise. They got tested yesterday. They were down in the first, tied at half. Now, obviously, I guess Spot hit a lot of threes on them, but they figure out how to win in a tight situation. So again, I'm not coming off the bandwagon. I still think they're the favorite. I'm not coming off of that. And I said before the season, they were never unbeatable. But I think if it was an NBA type playoff series where you're playing X amount of games against, this team, and this team, I don't think they would lose any one of those series. And I still don't think they would. But again, they're not unbeatable. But I don't think this loss is as drastic as maybe the outside world is making it all that out to be. And again, that's not a knock on Joey. He's a great player. They just have a lot of really, really, really good pieces that I think it's really going to shine through with now him not being there. That's just my opinion. So
I've always said, you and I were talking earlier, the kids have to do what's right for them and their future. There's just no doubt about that. So I don't think that's an issue. I think looking at it from a coach's point of view, that this is going to hurt. Where it's going to hurt Warwick is their depth. You get a kid in foul trouble. You don't have that seventh man. He's now the sixth man, or the sixth man's now the fifth man. So, you get in a game where your top dog is twisted his ankle, or somebody's in foul trouble, or something like that. And then I think that's where it'll hurt Warwick. But, Section 2, I don't think there'll be any tears for the Warwick Warriors, who seem to be in the LL finals like the last 2 or 3 years in a row. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and the other thing too, speaking of Section 2, and Coach saw the team I think is going to give him the most fits. I mean, you saw Lebanon get pushed to the limit and pulling out of the fire on Friday night against CV. And Coach talked about him earlier. CV, I mean, the couple of things that caught my eye was, obviously we touched on it, the township score. CV coming, I had CV pegged for 4th in Section 2. I don't know where they're going to fit, but I did not see them pushing Lebanon to the limit at all. I didn't see that coming. Mm-hmm. And then, to your point, they turned right around. And I know Eastern lost a lot, or a good chunk, but they went to states last year. They beat Octorara in Coach the same game that you lost to Catholic the other year. Not to bring that up, but the very last game to get whatever that is, like the 9th seed or whatever it is in states. So, and then Donegal, like I said, Donegal playing NL, who I really, really like, and Susquehannock, they played them tough. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I don't know. I got a lot to say, I guess. So
yeah. Well, we'll definitely be seeing the Warriors. I know they're pretty good to let us in to watch games, so we'll be there. And then Andy, you heard Coach George. You heard him earlier. Now he's gonna have to check with his AD, but he said maybe we can get some media in up there at the in Viking country. You heard that?
I want to go to the Snake Pit.
Okay. All right. We'll have.
I'll double check that. Make sure we edit that out later.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll have to send the tape to you, Coach, because you're helping me with AV on this end. So, okay, it's going to be interesting to see how Warwick deals with that. But I'm with Andy. It's like they've been playing without this guy most of the summer and in the fall when they do play, and McCracken's such a good kid. I mean, it's just a loss for the LL just because he's a good guy. I mean, he's just
and that's the other thing. That's the other thing I wanted to touch on too. Obviously, for kids who are on a team that has a lot of great expectations, there could be that dissentment, like, well, geez, dude, what do you do? Like, this is all about you. What are you doing? Like, we had all these dreams to do this, that, and whatever. And I'm telling you right now, it's not that way at Warwick. Joey's still going to be around. He's just obviously not going to dress and play, but he is still basically going to be on the team, which is good. And that tells you that they got it cooking over there at Warwick, where a kid can make a decision for the betterment of himself, and there isn't that, oh geez, what is he still doing here? He's just hanging on. Like, you know what I mean? There's none of that going on at Warwick. So from a team psyche type thing, it's non-existent of a problem. That you don't have to worry about that with them. It's just going to be the production on the floor and who fits where and how they figure that out. So
Okay. All right. Let's shift gears. I got looking ahead for this coming week. We'll start with Coach George because you know exactly what you got coming ahead. Go ahead, Coach. Talk to me about the week that's going to be.
So for us, we've got Catholic obviously Wednesday night here at home. So that's a big game for us. Just sort of maybe a litmus test for where we're at right now. Obviously we have, we can't really use the excuse that we're only a few games in. We got more than anybody else. So, hopefully it's a good battle and, we can have some fun. Saturday night, we are at home again, non-league against Williams Valley. I think Friday night, we are the odd team out. I think Elko's with Donegal Friday, and I guess that's the Octorara Catholic matchup Friday night would be my guess.
Friday night. Yep. That I got that on the list, Coach. We tried to get that live stream, but we're shooting for the other one. We don't know. What do you think, Andy? Week coming up.
So we're going to be in Millersville tomorrow night, doing our first attempt at a live stream for Hempfield and Penn Manor, and two teams that are coming off similar games, really, where they had to fend off the opposition. I said Hempfield with Dallastown and Penn Manor with Solanco, obviously. Tuesday night, it looks really light. I think the only one is Columbia Mennonite. I think that's
Columbia and Mennonite. I was just on the email with Coach. I gotta hit their AD up. Maybe we can get somebody in to get that game. They got a bigger gym, so we'll see. We're hoping maybe we can get somebody into that one because Section 5's got to get going here, and it looks like they are. I put up the schedule this week, and I don't know if I have Coach's Saturday game in there. I'm going to have to recheck that, but there is games 6 days this week. 6 out of 6. There's games. The only Saturday is a bunch of non-league games, and teams are starting to fill in with the non-league. When I did the schedule for the third time, there was no non-leagues, and then all of a sudden there's some non-leagues. So teams are kind of filling in that and seeing putting the pieces together. But yeah, we do have our first live stream. We got a new crew. We got the same announcers. So I'm looking forward to that. We haven't had Penn Manor on before, and we'll see how it goes. I know I'm producing, so it's like everybody's going to point the fingers this way. So as long as we can get from the sling to the YouTube, I'm going to be happy. That's going to be the key is click here, click there, manage a game. And Coach is laughing. He's looking at me. He's like, yeah, we do that too. And then I want to try to get to the LL, the Lancaster Lebanon website. I know in the beginning of football, they put all the links to all the live stream games. Do either of you guys know that link's up there for basketball?
For the paper?
No, for paper or the Lebanon Lancaster website, the league website. And I know in the fall they tried to put the links to all the live stream games, and when we're trying to do live stream, what I'm getting from the ADs, it's like, well, we do our own, and I try to come back and say, well, what we do is more of a production than just follow the basketball around and maybe put the scoreboard in the corner. So we might have to cover some games just watching some live stream. Right. I don't know. Do you guys know if there's links on the LL site, the Lancaster Lebanon? Do you know, Coach George?
Yeah, there are actually the same. I had actually reused the same email from football season, and when I used it, all the links are still there. The slight difference now is that we actually got an email from our administrators because basketball is just a little bit different in terms of so many levels getting played all at the same time. So some schools are streaming varsity, some are streaming varsity / JV, both of them separately. Some are streaming them all together. Some are obviously streaming their junior high as well. Some aren't. Every single school is different. So we got a spreadsheet of just all the different breakdowns of which schools are streaming what, but for the most part they are. I know that the Catholic game the other night, I think, got streamed through a pay site. So
Yeah.
I think you had to pay $4 to watch that one. So they're not all going to be free. And I do know the pay site that Catholic uses. Now, again, no disrespect to Lancaster Catholic, I love those guys, but it was a pretty glitchy website, to pay the $4 for. So, but not like you guys. I mean, when you guys do a game, it's flawless.
But that was then, and this is now. So we got new equipment, we got new producers, we got new camera guys. The only thing that's going to be good for us is we got great announcers. So I mean, that's gonna stay the same. And I don't know, Coach. I mean, you're into the AV stuff. Does the announcers doing a game make a difference? I think it does, but what are your thoughts?
Well, I think, just from this fall, and you guys probably did the same thing, watching, my kid play soccer, so it was really nice having someone just announce soccer games, just giving you a little bit of feedback there. The football games that had that, I know I listened to some schools. It's obviously way better if you can get some announcing on there. There's some things that you don't see on the live stream as well. And obviously it just gives a little bit of normality to our lives right now, when you just hear someone sort of, calling some stuff out and making it seem like a typical day.
Yeah. What's your thoughts, Andy?
As far as, I got a lot of thoughts.
Well, I mean, thoughts on the live stream, on the links, on what we're trying to do, looking ahead this week, whatever you got.
Yeah. As far as compiling a list of streams that we're not associated with, the ones that are going through the school, that's going to be, it's weird. I know from football, because obviously I decided to sit out this season because to your point, I didn't want to get into the mathematics of, well, I want to go, but then I'm going to take Timmy's mom out of the equation. Like, I'm not interested in that whatsoever. So yeah, just trying to figure out who was live streaming what. Obviously YouTube is far and away the best way to go if your school can do it, because everyone uses that. But yeah, like Coach was saying, Catholic does this one website. McCaskey, for their football thing, did something that was really, really well done, but it was through like IBM or something like that. So it was a different platform. And all these things aren't unanimous and consistent. So, and like he said, I mean, a lot of these schools are sometimes just bunching up everything into one solid thing. I forget who it was. It might have been, oh God, LS or somebody, or I don't know who it was, but I was just searching through their YouTubes from this weekend, and the stream itself was on YouTube, and it was like 3 hours and 57 minutes. And it's like, oh, well, now I got to parse through like the 9th grade or the JV or whatever. So, I mean, yeah, the bottom line is at least they're giving people an option to at least watch it. I mean, that's good in that sense. So yeah, and yeah, tomorrow night, hopefully it goes off without a hitch. I mean, we'll see. I think it's going to be a good game. It should be tight, probably going to be low scoring. First one to 45, maybe. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, it's good to be back. The other thing too, I did want to make mention of, is Tyler Burden. I know we kind of hinted at him at the very beginning, but we said LS has a freshman coming in from IMG. Not really sure what that means. Well, I think now we know what it means. He dropped whatever it was, 28 on Friday night in his first game. So this is now going to be a kid who is going to be on probably an all-decade team. I mean, if he continues that pace,
if he stays around. Yeah. Well, so, I will drop some news to you tonight, Andy, because you don't know this, but as of now, we are going to get into LS's gym once to live stream a game there. So I'm pretty pumped about that. I don't know quite offhand which team it was. I'm thinking it's Octorara. So we'll have a couple D1 guys go after it, young guy versus the older guy, and we'll see how that all washes out. But anyway, hey, we had a good weekend. I mean, I appreciate Andy. I appreciate Coach George coming on, and congratulations, Coach. Two games, 2 wins, man. That's like winning a tournament without even being in a tournament. And one of them was an LL game, and they always count. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt, wins a win.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Andy.
Last thing I'll say, he said who they play Wednesday night and where it is. Just keep an eye on that score. Weird things happen in that game. That's all I'm going to say. Weird things happen.
Well, I'm hoping Andy can get in and be in person and maybe do some tweeting from that game too.
We'll see.
Come on down. Come on down.
Okay. All right. Hey, thanks. Good night, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate
All right,
it.
see you guys. Thanks.
Good night.
Right.